Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well. It's Nietzsche again, coming at you with another YouTube. I'm recording this a week before. If you have my English class, you probably have seen me on here already. Same outfit, everything. But we are going to be talking today about business cycles. I'm just want to go through this very quickly. This is a short week, so basically all you guys have to do is just watch this YouTube video and do the assignment that I'm going to have for you guys talking about business cycles. When you do your independent study day. Right now is a really interesting time to talk about this. It's kind of getting into our chapter about GDP a little bit, which is what we're going to be talking about when we come back from break, and what GDP is. But business cycles are really important. I just want to talk about them in general right now because of everything that's going on. We're kind of in the middle of transitioning from what's called a bull market into a bear market. And we'll talk about what both of those mean. But it's basically we're transitioning in a huge business cycle right now where it's really good to talk about it. So I figured that this would be a good, just short lesson that we're going to have for this week. So again, you guys just have to work on, do assignments and everything until Wednesday. And then you have off for spring break. So this is really it. Before you guys go on spring break. So I'm really excited for that. So here is what we're going to talk about. So business cycles is on page 315 in your book. I'm going to have you guys read that this week. So that way you guys can get a better idea of what business cycles exactly are and how they work. I'm going to put some graphics here for you guys to see as well. So that way you can kind of get an idea of what they look like. But it looks like just a big wave. You're talking about different flows of the economy, and you can really see this too on most graphs again that you come to when it comes to for economics and things like that. That everything comes in waves. Um, Good boy. So when we're talking about business cycles, I think the most important thing that we should talk about is that this is not just like a short-term thing. Even in a high expanding market or a bear or what a bull market is what it's called when it's going up and up and up, a bull market even has those moments where it's dipping for a couple days, maybe a day here or there, but it's not long term. Like we're not expecting things to just continuously be like that. There's just the economy has that where it just has bad weeks, it has bad days. So it's not like everything's growing all the time, but there is a steady expansion of growth. And so it can't just be going down and down and down all the time. So when you're the first part of this business cycle is called expansion. You are expanding the economy to a certain degree, and it's going up on a steady incline. That first part of the expansion is when everything is going pretty well. People have jobs. Our GDP, which is what we're going to talk about more, but it's gross domestic product, is growing exponentially, meaning that we're making stuff. People are making money. People are investing. There's a lot of money that's free flowing, going around the economy, and it's all pretty much working. And the expansion that people are having, it's usually pretty long term. Unemployment's low, businesses are expanding, and there's a lot of growth. And that is exactly where people want to be. You want to have a lot of employment. You want to have a lot of money going through because it just makes the economy work. And it makes sure that people, if people have jobs, that's great. That's what we want. We want more and more people to have jobs. So when that expansion starts going up, then you'll just see it kind of like curves off at some point right there, right? And that's called its peak. The peak is at the highest point that you could possibly get with the highest point that the economy can go to. And we've actually been at a very high peak for the last couple of years. Our economy's never been bigger than it is now. And part of that is because of just it's recovered from a recession. We made a lot of new things. We invested in a lot of stuff. When you have we'll talk about what a recession is, but you have a lot of moments where it's the height of economic expansion. And you really don't know that something's reached its peak until it gets there. And honestly, we reached our peak probably just a couple weeks ago where everything started to happen with the coronavirus. People started to realize that this was way more serious than we had imagined, and that reached its peak. And probably not on its own. It probably still would have kept growing, and we saw it when we were doing the stock market stuff. And this isn't just on the stock market itself. Stock market plays into this, but it's not the only thing that we look at. At the point now where we're starting to realize that we've probably reached that peak of what we're going to have, and we're going to have probably a big a downturn, and how bad it is or what that looks like, it all kind of depends on how this coronavirus issue plays out. Once it's reached that peak, that's the highest point that we've gotten to. That was a couple of weeks ago that we reached that peak. And now we're heading downwards. This is called a contraction. Now, a contraction is not uncommon. This is all common. This is what a capitalist society is supposed to happen to it. We are supposed to expand, peak, contract, and then go back up again at some point. So this is not uncommon. The question is just how bad does that contraction go? And that is where people start to lose their jobs. People start to not make as much money. People start to lose their homes. And it can get very, very bad or slightly bad. Contractions are not uncommon. There's a lot of times where, like in the 2000s, there was a contraction in the economy because of the dot-com bubble burst, meaning that there was a bunch of new websites that were coming out. It was when the internet just first started to become commercialized, and there was a big burst in the economy. It's called the dot-com bubble, and it busted, and it really wasn't that bad. It was bad, but it could have been much worse. It did not hit the point of a recession. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. It didn't get to that point, but it's still, people lost jobs, and the economy started to turn down a little bit. So that is a contraction, and those are not uncommon. The question is how bad does that contraction get? In fact, it's quite common every at least decade where you do have that. But fortunately for us, for the past decade, we've been going up instead of going down. But now that might be changing. So now we're at a point where we're probably due for one anyway in the next couple of years. I don't know if this was the expectation, though. This was probably not expected by most people for this bad to happen. The question is, when do we hit the trough? The trough is the lowest point on the graph. That is the bottom part of the graph that you see right there. The bottom part of it is where we hit the very lowest we could possibly go. And then we don't even realize it. Just like the peak, we don't know at the time that that's the trough. Then all of a sudden it starts to pick back up. Maybe people will start getting more jobs. Money starts to flow again. And our economy begins to expand once more. This is all normal. This is normal for our business cycles to go like this. We have the expansions, the peaks, the contractions, and the troughs. And those are just the way that the economy goes. It's going to happen. There's no doubt that these things are going to happen. It's normal. And I would tell you that, like, it's people kind of freak out when we go down again. But those things are normal. The question is, this is unprecedented what we're going through right now. So we'll talk about why this is really kind of scary in some ways, but why we also shouldn't be too scared, because it's kind of just, what it is, and we should just, be ready to deal with this kind of stuff. Let's talk about what the worst contractions you could possibly have. So contractions, you have ones that just go down, and they're just not that great. It's kind of a downturn in the economy, but it's really not terrible. It's just like people are sometimes losing their jobs, and it's normal. And you want to have that expansion, but maybe it's just not the time. Maybe the industries are kind of lagging a little bit. But the question is, does it get to a recession? A recession is the first level of a contraction of where it gets really, really bad. So we had a recession in 2008. Some of you probably do remember that. You were probably kids at that point. But probably some of you do remember just how bad it turned. For many people, it turned really, really bad. And I'm hope that doesn't happen again. But it looks like we might be going into at least a recession. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll see what that looks like and how bad it is. And it really depends on just what the economy and how long this coronavirus stuff lasts, and how long we have to, be isolated, and what that looks like for our economy, because nobody's working right now. No one's making any money. People are still, there's some people still working, but a large portion of the economy isn't. And that can hurt everything else too. It's like a ripple effect. When one part of the economy isn't working, or one part of our population isn't working, it can have a ripple effect on the rest of it. Since this is unprecedented, no one knows what this is going to look like at the end of it. Are we going to have more businesses still that survive and are able to bring people back in and they're working? So maybe our joblessness isn't as bad as it was before. Are we going to have people who have money in order to go spend it on things? People can't go out and go spend stuff. I mean, you just can't go to the movie theater. You can't go out to a restaurant. You can't go anywhere. And that's unfortunately just what we have right now. You just can't go and do those things. And all those little things that you don't really think of make a difference on the overall economy too. And we just have people who right now aren't working, unfortunately. So this is really can be tough. It's a tough time, and hopefully this isn't as bad when things come out of it. Hopefully, maybe people will get their jobs back, and especially in California, I think we're doing okay with this coronavirus stuff right now. Hopefully, it doesn't get too much worse or really really awful. But if it does, if it starts, we start seeing more and more cases, we might have to be inside for a while. So what does that look like? It could lead to a recession. So that's the first step. The way you find out if you are in a recession is if something lasts where you're in a contraction for like 6 to 18 months. Like it's a long period of time when you're in a recession. And that just depends on where this goes. I mean, it could be very short term that we have this, and then it starts going bigger. But maybe we'll hit a recession at some point. But that's when people start saying we're in a recession. It's like 6 to 18 months that it takes. So we don't know yet until a couple months pass and see what our economy looks like at the end of this. So the next level is the depression. A depression has only happened once. It's the Great Depression in the 1920s and through the 1930s. There's really no defined way to tell the difference between a recession and a depression. It's kind of like everyone just labels it what it is. So people have now been labeling this a depression, or that we could be going into a depression-like type of atmosphere. Some people say that that's not true. Like the way that this is working out is that some people will get their jobs back at the end of it. Some people are saying like, no, we could have a very long time where people are just unemployed, not making money. And this could be really hurtful for some people. And I mean, really, this is just a depression is just a prolonged period of economic stagnation. And that could mean a bunch of different things. I mean, the depression lasted for almost 3 or 4 years, and in general, probably maybe a little bit shorter than that. But I mean, it really was like a prolonged period of high unemployment, and really it was just a very interesting time. At the end of this, I don't know what we'll even call this. It could be really short term that we just have a bunch of people who aren't working, and then people come right back to their jobs. I don't know. I mean, this is it's unprecedented what is happening. So that's why I felt this was really important to talk about, because this could be something that is the most significant thing that happens in your guy's lifetime. It just in terms of how it defines a generation going forward, not only culturally but economically, and what jobs people might have in the future. Whether people have basic income too, and we'll see. This is going to be really, really interesting. If not, just sometimes a little scary, but mostly for the most part, it's going to be hopefully just interesting, and people can learn about it and learn what happens with this. I will tell you guys, having gone through a recession when I was in college, it really was. Just scary. It really was for me. And because I was in college and was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a job after this too. But I will tell you that our economy is very good about bouncing back. We're the wealthiest country in the world. We have a lot of jobs that are available for people, and more so than most countries. So I will tell you that while it seems scary right now, the best thing you could possibly do is go to college and get an education while this is happening. Because when things bounce back, which they will, just like you see in any business cycle, when things do bounce back, the people who usually get those jobs first are young people with educations. And that's what happened with me. It took me a while to find a job, but again, I found a couple, and then I ended up working, and it took some time. But like anybody, it just takes a long time to come out of this. So honestly, guys, I would tell you that this is the most important the thing we could possibly learn right now. So that's why I wanted to start with this, at least get started to talk about it, because business cycles, we're in the middle of a massive change of one right now. And I think that it's just very important that you guys all know this stuff. So for the next couple weeks you guys have off, enjoy your Easter break. I hope you guys have fun with it. You do not need to show up for class this week. Again, no class on Thursday. If you have questions, let me know. We'll talk more about the activity, hopefully, when you guys get back. I will have stuff ready for you on April 20th when we go back to school. Again, I think you guys all heard that we're closed until May 1st right now, and hopefully we get to come back after that, I'm hoping. So May 4th would be the first day that we really do have, that we come back from back to school. And I'm hoping that stays that way. But we'll see. And if we have to go longer, we have to go longer. If not, then we, hopefully we can come back and all, go into the last couple weeks of school ready to go. So, all right, guys. Well, I miss you all. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope you're staying inside. And I hope everyone is at least continuing to study and keeping up with their stuff. So let me know if you guys have questions, and I'll talk to you all soon.